breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warm and friendly hello! Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you. We're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Matt Josephs, aka Major Matt. We're going to chat with him about what we've seen here in the first month or so of the season. I know he's a bit of a Phillies fan, so we do have to talk about the, shall we say, disappointments of the Phillies thus far. Obviously, the New York Mets, and how he's been taking a look at the prop front. We'll break down some of the games for Friday with him as well. And then in the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one or two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, we got ourselves a fun day of baseball on Thursday. Let's take a look back at it, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Brewers do lose Brandon Woodruff, who is removed after 1 1/3 innings with a velocity dip, but they win this game convincingly, 13-1 in the final. Michael Soroka, well, he got pounded. 8 runs allowed in 3 innings. He gives up a home run as taking him deep for home run numero 3 in this season, William Contreras, and then Sal Frelick off of Brandon Pfaadt, his 3rd home run season. Pfaadt is now coming out of the bullpen, gives up a home run in his inning of work. You had Jonathan Loaiza, 2/3 of an inning. He allows a run. Philip Abner, he comes in for 2 1/3 innings, allows 2 runs. And James McCann, the backup catcher, I think that this is like his 3rd appearance of the season already, gave up a run that was unearned in his inning of work. Meanwhile, for the Brewers, after Woodruff left 1 1/3 innings, no runs allowed. The bullpen was pretty solid as you had Grant Anderson give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen squirrels. Shane Drowan, hopefully I got that correct, 4 innings, he gives up 1 run, and then Trevor McGill, Jake Woodford, and Brian Fitzpatrick all able to end a scoreless inning. Not a lot of scoreless innings in this one. The St. Louis Cardinals absolutely take it to the Pittsburgh Pirates. This by a count of 10-5 as Paul Skeens, not what he was looking for here. 5 runs, 4 of which were earned, given up in his 5 innings of work, gives up a pair of bombs as Jordan Walker, 9th home run season, J.J. Weatherholt, his 7th. From there, you don't mess with the Yohan Ramirez, a scoreless inning, along with Mason Montgomery, Isaac Madsen, though 5 runs allowed in 2/3 inning. Chris Stavinsky, 1 1/3 inning scoreless, and then for Hunter Dobbins, not long for this game, 5 walks, 3 runs allowed in 4 1/3 innings. Bullpen stepped up, though. You did have Matt Savanson give up a run in an inning, and Jojo Romero gives up a home run to Brandon Lau. He got loud for his 8th home run season, but Justin Brule, Gordon Gassefo combined for 2 scoreless innings. Ryan Stanek, a scoreless inning. So the Cardinals, 18-13 to begin the season. Pirates back down to 500, and for the Reds, 20-11 to start the season. 6-4, they take down the Colorado Rockies. Michael Lorenzen, 4 runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings, including a pair of bombs. TJ Friedel, 2nd home run of the season, and then you had home run number 5 for Nathaniel Lowe, so he gets low there. Antonio Senzatella, 1 2/3 innings scoreless. Victor Vodnik, 2 runs allowed in his inning work, and Andrew Abbott, been a shaky start to the season for him, but 2 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings, was taken deep by Tyler Freeman, 1st home run of the season. Connor Phillips, Tony Santillan, lend a scoreless inning. Emilio Pagan continues to not be trustworthy, 2 runs allowed in his inning of work, but the team was able to persevere regardless. The Tigers persevere, 5-2. They take down the Atlanta Braves, trailing by a count of 2-1 going into the 8th inning as Bryce Elder did not look elderly. 1 run allowed over the course of 6 innings. Tyler Kinley, a scoreless inning, but Yoel Payams, 2 runs allowed in a 1/3 of an inning. Aaron Bummer, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Jose Suarez gives up 2 runs in an inning, and Framber Valdez, 2 runs allowed in his 6 innings of work. Derek Anderson, 2 scoreless innings. Kyle Finnegan, a scoreless inning, and for the Tigers, they leave 13 men on base, but they find a way to cash in enough to be able to get the job done there. Also being able to get the job done, the Athletics, 6-3. They're able to take down the Kansas City Royals. Royals just continue to not hit away from home. About 2.6 runs per game is what they're averaging away from home. And Noah Cameron, his rough season continues. 5 runs, 4 of which were earned in 5 1/3 innings. John Schreiber, 5 outs of the bullpen, allows a run. Alex Lang is scoreless inning in. Jeffrey Springs not long for this game, gives up 2 runs in 3 innings. He gave up a home run as taking him deep. It was Miguel Garcia, 3rd home run season. Then Elias Diaz, as off of Brady Basso, first home run of the season. Basso, 1 1/3 innings, gives up that home run, but bullpen was solid here. Scott Barlow, Jack Perkins, they both give you a scoreless inning. Luis Medina, 2 2/3 innings, scoreless as well. What's not solid is the Mets, 10-21 to start the season. They have now won 3 out of their last, I believe, 19 games. 5-4, the Nationals get the job done. They had a tough time being with the Nationals bullpen as Miles Michaelis, 3 runs allowed in 4 innings, to give up a home run to MJ Melendez, second home run in the campaign. From there, Mitchell Parker, 1 run allowed in 3 innings. Richard Dickey, Lovelady, and Gus Varlin combined for 2 scoreless innings. Freddie Peralta, 3 runs, 1 of which was earned, given up in his 6 innings of work that came off of his own error. So there's that. But Brooks Raley, he does not go off the Rayleys. He and Devin Williams lend a scoreless inning, but Luke Weaver continues to be miserable. 2 runs allowed in his inning of work as he gets taken deep by CJ Abrams, his 8th home run of the campaign. And then with the doubleheaders, we saw a pair of splitteroonies as for the Orioles versus the Astros. Game number 1 that went the way of the Baltimore Orioles, 10-3. They were able to get it done here as Peter Lambert didn't necessarily give the world's worst start. 2 runs allowed in 4 1/3 innings, but they could have used more length because bullpen from there got eaten up. Stephen Okert, 3 runs allowed in 2/3 of an inning as he gets taken deep in this one by Adley Rushman. 4th home run of the season. Then Jeremiah Jackson, 6th home run of the season. That comes off Jason Alexander. Not so funny as he was not trying to do a Seinfeld skit here. 5 runs allowed over the course of 2 innings. AJ Bluba, a scoreless inning, and you had for the Orioles a good start out of Chris Bassett, who has really struggled this year. 6 2/3 innings, he allows 1 run. Uncle Rico Garcia, a out of the bullpen scoreless. Anthony Nunez, 2 unearned runs allowed in his inning of work, and then you were able to get a scoreless inning as well out of Jose Esperada. So they were able to get it done there, but then in game number 2, the Astros, they are able to flip the script. They get an 11-5 win as for the Astros, offense was firing all cylinders. Yordan Alvarez off of Brandon Young, his 12th home run season. Then Young gives one up as well to Cam Smith, 4th home run season for Young. 10 runs, 7 of which were earned, give it up in his 4 innings. Bullpen from there wasn't too bad as Keegan Aiken, Tyler Wells, Yunier Cano, don't you know, they all gave you scoreless innings. Cameron Foster, 2 innings out of the bullpen, he gives up a run. And Lance McCullers Jr., 4 walks allowed in 6 innings. He gives up 3 runs on 2 hits, but he's able to get the win here. Brian Abreu gives up a run in an inning. Sir Anthony Dominguez, scoreless inning. Cody Bolton, he does give up a run in an inning, but that was enough for the Astros to be able to get it done as they went 5 of 10 with men in scoring position. And then in Phillies versus Giants, the Phillies, they were able to win both games in this double dip. That helps them out big time, 3-2. They win game number 1 as Logan Webb. Good start here. 1 run allowed over the course of 7 innings. Gave up a home run to Kyle Schwarber. Schwarbaum for his 10th home run in the campaign. Eric Miller, a scoreless inning out of the bullpen, and then Ryan Walker. He gives it up in the 9th inning as Justin Crawford, an infield single, wins the game for Walker. Gives up 2 runs in 2/3 inning. Christopher Sanchez continues to be solid. 6 2/3 innings. He gives up 2 runs along the way. Orion Kirkring, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Tanner Banks, 1 1/3 inning scoreless, and Chase Sugar gets it out of the bullpen scoreless. And then in game number 2, 6-5, it required extra innings, but the Phillies did a nice job getting to the Giants bullpen as Adrian, don't call him Doogie Howser, well, he pitched more like Doogie Howser, gave up a pair of home runs. Kyle Schwarber, once again, 11th home run season. Then Trey Turner down for what? 4th home run season. Ryan Barucki in out of the bullpen, he gives up a run. Caleb Killian, 2 scoreless innings. You had Keaton Wynn give up a 1 run over the course of his 2 innings, and then Matt Gage gives up the unearned run in the 10th inning. Alec Boehm, sacrifice fly, ends the game. And for Philadelphia, this was a piecemeal game as the guy that went the longest for you was Trevor Richards, 2 1/3 innings. He allows a run along the way. Tim Mates of the opener, 2 scoreless innings. Nolan Hoffman in his MLB debut gives up a 1 run over the course of 2 innings. They were hoping for a little bit more length. Jonathan Bolin, he gives up 2 runs in an inning. Brad Keller, he goes for an inning. He gives up a run, but Jose Alvarado, pair of outs out of the bullpen squirrels. Chase Sugar, once again, a scoreless inning. So the Giants now 13-18, and the Twins wrap up the night with a 7-1 win over the Blue Jays. As for the Jays, they were able to get a relatively okay start here out of Kevin Gausman. He does give up 4 runs over the course of 5 2/3 innings on 4 hits, by the way. Gave up a pair of bombs going deep off of him. Byron Buxton, home run number 8 of the campaign. Ryan Jeffers, 4th home run season. Tommy Nance from there. 4 outs out of the bullpen squirrels, but Mason Fluharty hurt by a pair of errors. 3 runs, 1 of which was earned. Give it up in a 1/3 of an inning. Joe Mantiply, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and Bailey Ober, good start out of him. Gives up a home run to Dalton Varsho. 4th home run season. He gives that up over the course of 6 innings. Anthony Banda was able to give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen bullpen scoreless Justin Topa at scoreless inning, and Andrew Morris, 1 1/3 inning scoreless. If you're looking at what we're all getting trend-wise in Major League Baseball right now, over the last 7 days, things have normalized a little bit more with regards to totals, but still, we've been having a very overwhelming season. We have seen 47 overs of 40 unders over the last 7 days, and if math serves me correct, 4 pushes along the way, so 54% hit rate to the over, and for favorites, 49 and 40 on the money line in this time span, hitting at 55%. That's right around where they are for the season, more around 55.3% for this season, 254 and 205 on the money line, and among those favorites, 49 failed to cover the run line, and the overall over rate, 53.3%, 242 overs, 212 unders, and a few pushes along the way. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's where we're getting trend-wise. Coming up next, let's chat it up with one of our good friends, Matt Joseph, aka Major Matt, right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN family of podcasts.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got our good friend Major Matt aboard. He does such great work taking a look at this great game of baseball on so many different fronts. I know that he's doing tremendous work over at Ariel Epstein, the Prop Queens website, along with the podcast as well. He's locked in on so many things baseball, does a great job on the college basketball front, the college football front, and so much more. You're able to follow him on the old Twitter /X at Major Matt altogether. And Matt, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you as always for having me.
Always great to have you aboard. And Matt, now we're through about 5 or so weeks of the season, and have there been some observations that you made that been maybe a little bit different this year from past years?
And we're still trying to get more data points, obviously, with regards to some of the pitcher props and things. You'd be surprised. There are some teams that have not seen a lot of left-handed starting pitchers so far this year. Because of that, it's kind of hard to, see what they do when we continue to see lefties and stuff like that. But yeah, it's really interesting because a team last year that used to struggle at times with contact was the Minnesota Twins. And this year, they are a under team when it comes to K-props. This is a team that's making a little bit more contact than they did before. And so, as we talk about with regards to 30 games or so, that is a really good sample size when it comes to looking at pitcher props.
Absolutely. And when it comes to taking a look at props, are you able to find out a little bit more about the hitters rather than the pitchers right now? Because with a lot of pitchers, we've only seen like 6 or so starts for them. Meanwhile, with the hitters, I feel like we've got a little bit more of a sample size with them.
Yeah, it's play against my Phillies, against lefties. My goodness, they have been brutal this year against left-handed pitchers so far this year. The numbers are pretty shocking when it comes to that sort of thing. So, yeah, you're starting to see the trends. And obviously, there are always hitters that match up really well against certain pitchers, and they continue to do so no matter what. So, it's all about finding those hitter-pitcher matchups. I always post on my Twitter account about like 10 o'clock in the morning Eastern time, the ones that kind of look at and see who we can take advantage of, especially if you do a DFS or if you play the hits, runs, and RBI sort of markets.
Yep, absolutely. As we do have Matt Joseph, aka Major Matt, does such an excellent job taking a look at this great game of baseball. He's joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, and no doubt about it, it's been a little bit rough for the Phillies, but it's also been rough for the Mets. How do you just take a look at the dumpster fire of these two teams? Because for the Phillies, it feels like the offense just has not been able to get online, and they've had some pretty demonstrative home and road splits over the last 2 seasons. But at the very least, with Zach Wheeler coming back starting on Friday, there might be some light at the end of the tunnel. And right now, it feels like the Mets might just be a wet match in a dark cave.
Could be. I mean, I think the Mets will get better, and I think that's the part of this season. Every team loses, 50 games? Every team wins 50 games. It's how you do in the other 62 games that matters. I'm not ready to write off the Mets, and I would say if you do believe in them, take them to win the division now. Like, you're going to get some value. I mean, it's a long shot, obviously, and they need to get hot. But, this is an Atlanta Braves team that, do you believe really in all their starting pitching? I mean, they are slugging really well right now, but is this a team that you can believe in this rotation? I know that help is coming. Spencer Strider, some of the other guys are coming back, but this is probably the time when you would maybe want to sprinkle on a long shot to potentially win a division, because the Mets are a talented team, no doubt, and the rotation's pretty good as well, but they're just in one of those rough patches, and so I think they're going to get better. I think this is a team that's going to play more to their baseball card, as I'd love to hear some of the managers say, but yeah, right now it's just brutal for the Mets.
And is it one of those cases where with the Mets, do you just need to see them win a few games before you can trust them again? Because I think that that's the biggest thing, because I don't think that they're going to be winning 52 games like they're on pace for right now, but at the same time, I just feel very timid to back attack them on like Friday or Saturday until it feels like they finally get the ship righted, and it just feels like it's not completely toxic with that team.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. They've got a West Coast trip. They play the Angels, the Rockies, and the Diamondbacks. I mean, usually those are tough for the East Coast teams. I mean, you'd like to think that they can go to Colorado and win some games, but then again, they just got swept at home by Colorado. So I think this is a team, maybe a trip like this gets them together. They figure some things out, and by the time they come back home on the 12th, they're a way better team than they are right now.
Yep, no question about it. As we do have Matt Joseph, aka Major Matt, right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And I think that's interesting, the man that is going to be starting for them on Friday, because that'd be Christian Scott. He got pulled with a no-hitter in his last start, but he had walked 5 in less than an inning and a half. How do you take a look at a guy like that, or is he just a no-play in terms of props because he's got a very small sample size, made a few starts last season, and in his first start of the season, clearly just had no command whatsoever?
That's a guy I'm just not going to touch right now. Granted, he's going on the road. It's a long road trip, and certainly this is an Angels team that at times has had some problems with control with regards to strikeouts. They average over 5 strikeouts per game against right-handed starting pitchers. So, it depends on what his K-prop looks like if I want to get involved. But yeah, this is a guy you just can't trust. I mean, walks are something I feel like that are really hard to overcome. We see a lot of starting pitchers who have, 2 or 3 walks a game, and they continue to do so. So it feels like until that control that comes back, I'm not going to play anything with this guy unless it's the walks market, which I occasionally dabble in but don't really do as much with.
Yep, I don't blame you there. It's been a little bit rough for a lot of those players on the New York Mets. He's certainly been one of them. And I did mention this as well, the fact that the Philadelphia Phillies, I do think that there's a little bit of upside with them with now Zach Wheeler returning. Looks solid in his first start. This is start number 2 for him. He goes up against Erie Perez and the Miami Marlins with Phillies about a -125 favorite. Anything that you'd be looking at here, because I do think that Wheeler returning for the Phillies is big, especially after they played 18 innings yesterday, and do have to wonder if the travel and just the late night that they had on Thursday does catch up with them a little bit more here in this game.
Well, I mean, you have to remember it's spring training for Zach Wheeler. I mean, this is him still doing his, getting more innings under his belt, so I can't expect more. He went 5 in his first start against the Braves. Now, it's at least a little bit of a different kind of lineup to face than Atlanta is, but I think once again, we might see 5 innings. We might see 5 1/3, 5 2/3. They're not going to push him because they know that there's a long-range solution here. The playoffs are still potentially in their future, and so they want him to be there for the long run. So, I'll be interested to see what his outs market is. I don't think he's going to go more than 6. I don't know if he's going to go more than 5. This is one of those things where you may want to pay attention to the manager's press conferences right before the game, because if Don Mattingly says something like, hey, we're only going to go 5 innings or 85 pitches, then maybe you run to your sports book and see if you can take advantage of that information.
Yep, and I think that that's so important to be doing as well. When you have question marks with a pitcher as to how far he's going to be able to go, just listening to what the manager says, because they're much more straight up in baseball than they are in, say, football, where you get a lot of smoke screens with injuries and everything like that. I think that that is so well said by you, and I do think that it's going to be interesting to see how those teams playing those doubleheaders are going to be able to respond. Is it something where you do take that into account? Because, like I said, I do have to downgrade, in my opinion, the Phillies and the Giants a little bit more for Friday, because on Thursday they had to play both 18 innings and they had a long rain delay. Is that something that plays a little bit of a factor when you take a look at these teams on Friday?
Oh, certainly. Outs, overs for certain starting pitchers, depending on the bullpen usage for those doubleheaders. That's something I certainly look at. The lineups are a little bit more in flux. Who played both games? Who sat one game? Somebody who played in both games may not be available on Friday. So I have to be really careful, and I have to really make sure I like something before I play anything involving a team after a doubleheader, because there's just so many question marks involved.
Yep, I'm right there with you, and I had to personally downgrade the Giants a little bit more. I was thinking about maybe taking them against the Rays, just can't quite do it there because they really had a lot taken out of them in that double dip yesterday, and I think that this is really interesting as well. Taking a look at the Washington Nationals, who they just had that nice series win over the New York Mets. As we know, the Nationals offense has been solid, and pitching has not been. Jake Irvin is going to be going up against Jacob Misiorowski with a total of 8. How do you take a look at a spot like this? Because Irvin has actually been way up with his strikeout stuff. He's continuing to give up quite a bit of hard contact, though, and Misiorowski, obviously great with his strikeout stuff, but a guy that, once again, can knock himself out of starts early because of the walks.
Well, yeah, and Irvin is a guy that I've seen so far this year, a lot of 3.5s and 4.5s, and I've been taking advantage of some of those 3.5s to the over. Now, granted, he's getting 4 and 5 for some of them, so they're just barely wins, but once again, we'll see what they put out as a number against Milwaukee, but Washington's striking out a ton. 7 of the last 9 right-handed starting pitchers have had 6 strikeouts or more against the Nationals. So you're going to see a high number because you're going to pay a tax on a guy like Mizorowski, a guy we know is going to get a lot of strikeouts, but he certainly could in this matchup. Once again, always, as we do this, you have to make sure to check the weather because we are in the East Coast. We are outside. It's in Washington, D.C. We've had some cold fronts, some warm fronts, so definitely make sure about the weather there because it feels like a lot of these guys with nastier stuff struggles a little bit in the cold to have it, spin and stuff like that. So that's something you certainly want to look for here when looking at this matchup is what's the weather going to be like in Washington, D.C. on Friday.
Yep, I think that's very well said by you. A lot of people think that the weather, you always have to take a look at it in like Wrigley Field, what have you, but in all these ballparks out there on the East Coast, you do want to be taking a look at what way the wind is blowing. Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it medium? Things like that. So well said by you. And anything else that you're going to be taking a look at for this Friday, as we've got all 30 teams in action, few TBDs on the American League side of things, but all in all, pretty good slate. Anything else that's really catching your attention?
So the interesting thing here, and I don't know how many people pay attention to it, is Colorado's back in Coors Field. And a lot of people think that because they're in Coors Field, a Rockies team that strikes out a lot is going to continue to strike out a lot in Coors. Well, so far this year, 8 unders and 4 overs on the K-props in Coors. Now, Holmes is not exactly a strikeout pitcher, but if the number's a little bit too high, there might be some value on the under because the Rockies have a little bit more contact at home. So that's something I always look for here. Last year, they just struck out a ton no matter where they were, whether it was Coors or outside of Coors. This year, it's been a little bit more value to the under, especially in Coors. So that's something to kind of watch out there when it comes to them. And obviously, Mackenzie Gore has been so good this year. Patrick Corbin also has been a bit of a surprise, but we're also seeing Toronto know we're not going past 5 innings or something with him. And then finally, when you look at Woods Richardson, he's a guy that's not getting a lot of strikeouts. He's going up against a Toronto Blue Jays lineup that doesn't strike out a lot there. It's probably going to be 3.5. There's a small chance the books might even put out a 2.5 for that game. So that'll be really interesting to see because Woods Richardson is a guy that just doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. He had 2 in 4 innings in Toronto against the Blue Jays. So that's a number I'll certainly be paying attention to as Toronto is continuing to be, especially against right-handers, a very contact-heavy team, averaging under 4 strikeouts per game against them.
Yep, and Simeon Woods Richardson the last 2 years was about as milquetoast of a pitcher as you get, like 8.5 strikeouts, 3.5 walks per 9 innings, ERA above a 4. Just been awful as far this season. So well said by you and Matt. I know you're doing an amazing job on the baseball front. You're doing such great work in terms of taking a look at college sports. You're doing a great job with Ariel Epstein's, all her work with the Prop Queen website, Prop Queen podcast, and so much more. So love the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, at Mid-Major Matt on Twitter. Track all my plays. I post them every morning or so. So they're tracked on the Action Network app. So we're trying to get back into the positive. A little bit of a rough stretch right now, but it's a long season and certainly those wins will start to come. Any sort of props or any sort of first 3s, first 5s, first 7s, I certainly am somebody who is willing to answer questions because as I always like to say on the podcast, we all have one goal. We all want to beat the books.
Absolutely. And Matt, he's doing an amazing job looking at this great game of baseball all throughout the year. He's dialed in every single day and every single time he joins me on such great insight. So big thanks to Matt for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show. Now part of the Beast and Family podcast. Coming next, it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family podcast. Always great to be joined by Matt Josephs, a.k.a. Mid-Major Matt. He does such great work looking at this, a wonderful game of baseball. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights, and he did so once again today. So, big thanks to Matt for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81, and we are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first in time order, then the American League games in time order, any interleague games, those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. Let's get things started with 901, 902 on the card. Day game between the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Chicago Cubs. Homestanding Cubs say hip hip hooray to Colin Ray getting it started, and Zach Allen hopes to fill it up for the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks do find themselves as underdogs anywhere between plus 105 to a plus 115, minus 125 to minus 136 is that number on the Cubs. 7.5 is the total. The under is minus 120 and the over is even. And if you do take a look at the wind factor in this game, it should be blowing in right around about 10 miles per hour. Going to become a little bit more directional as the game goes along, but I did set a total of a 7.2. I do like the under. Zach Allen has been very down with his swing and miss stuff. He's also done a nice job in terms of keeping the ball in the yard thus far this season for Zach Allen. Right now he is playing a 3.14 ERA, less than home run allowed per 9 innings, but just 5.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. His career average is 9.4 strikeouts per 9, and for Colin Ray, I do think that there's some positivity doing here. 4.61 ERA, but a 3.89 fielding dependent. 1 home run, 3 walks allowed per 9 innings. Backed up by an offense that has been averaging 5.5 runs per game. I do think that this is going to be doing for a little bit of regression, especially with the wind blowing in this one. But still, for the Chicago Cubs, they've done a nice job in terms of finding a way to be able to move the line. And Pete Armstrong, who has been a disappointment thus far this season, pair of home runs over the last week. He's been able to get things going. You've gotten a lot of production out of Ian Happ. He has not been hapless. He's been able to give the team 7 home runs, so that's been pretty solid. 350 on base. Nico Horner's hitting above a 290. Alex Bregman, after a little bit of shaky start to the season, he's a perennially slow starter. He's been able to now give you over a 350 on base, and just the entire catcher spot. Carson Kelly, Moises Ballesteros, over a 390 on base for both of them. Miguel Amaya has even been able to give you a 350 on base. Now for the Cubs, I think the big issue that you've got with them is that this is a bullpen that's, with a lot of injuries. Porter Hodge is done for the season. You've got Riley Martin, Caleb Theobar, Hunter Harvey, Daniel Valencia on the injured list, and Corbin Martin's not necessarily a guy that I'm willing to trust in yet. Obi Milner, Phil Matone, they're a little bit up there in years, but the Diamondbacks are another bottom 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA, even with Juan Murillo giving you a sub-3 ERA. Taylor Clark has been okay. Jonathan Loaiza, guy I've always liked. He's been okay in this bullpen, but I don't trust Paul Sewald as a closer. And for the Diamondbacks, last year this team was in the top 5 in terms of run creation. We've seen that take a little bit of a dip this year. Gabriel Moreno being on the injured list to start the team, though, and Adrian Del Castro, he's been able to give you a little bit of something at the catcher spot, but barely hitting above 200. Carlos Santana, him getting injured was actually a good thing. Eliarmo Vargas has been great for the team, but Lourdes Gurriel, coming out the injured list, has not been himself. Nolan Arenado hitting at 275 with 5 home runs. That's been a nice surprise. Corbin Carroll give you over 350 on base. You've got guys that are moving the line, but it feels like the power is down without the likes of Eugenio Suarez and company from a season ago. So set a total of 7.2, like the under with the Cubs. Made them a minus 152, so want to lay up to about a minus 150 or so on that money line. 903, 904 on the card. It is the Reds. Yes, we're on to Cincinnati, and they're on to the road to face off against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Mitch Keller goes for the Buccos. Brady Singer hopes to have the Pirates singing the blues, and for the Reds, they are anywhere between plus 105 to plus 110 underdogs, minus 124 to minus 131. That number on Pittsburgh, 8.5 is the total. Under is minus 115 to minus 120. Over is minus 105 to minus 110. Set the Pirates at a minus 149. I do like them on the money line. Mitch Keller throughout his career, for one, has always been much better at home rather than away from home, and even though Mitch Keller isn't lighting the world on fire with regards to strikeouts, 6.6 strikeouts per 9 innings, 3.180 ERA, 3.09 fielding independent, he's been giving up just 0.3 home runs per 9 innings thus far this season, and when he's out there in Pittsburgh, he does a nice job keeping the ball in the air. PNC is a relatively good pitcher's ballpark. 4.05 career ERA at home, 4.91 ERA. Career ERA away from home at home, giving up less than 0.85 home runs per 9 innings. Flip side, you've got a guy in Singer who he's been able to work on the walks issue this season, but he's been up and down. 4.97 ERA, 4.98 fielding independent, just 6 strikeouts per 9 innings with 1.6 home runs allowed per 9. And this Pirates team has been in the top 8 in terms of run creation as well when they have been at home. Away from home, it's been a little bit more shaky, but still, you've had Oneil Cruz do a nice job after he was not able to get on base last season. He's right now supplying 9 home runs, still not hitting for a great average at 256, but it's leaps and bounds better than what it was a season ago. Brandon Lau has gotten loud, 8 bombs, about a 340 on base. Ryan O'Hearn, Brian Reynolds, move the line, hitting for over a 385 on base. Connor Griffin's starting to find it a little bit more. It's been disappointing for he and the former number 1 overall pick, Henry Davis. I just don't think he's ever going to pan out, but still, all in all, lineup has been solid, and it's a Pirates team that right now is in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen area. I really don't trust in Gregory Soto in this bullpen, but Danny Santana, sub-2 ERA last year. He's been solid this year. Mason Montgomery, Isaac Madsen, Yohan Ramirez. I'll give you a sub-380 ERA. These guys have been pretty solid. Not sure if I really trust in Evan Sisk, but I do think that Justin Lawrence, after a shaky start to the season, he's going to be able to find it a little bit more. Flip side, you got a Reds bullpen that has been one of the best in all baseball. They've been a top 5 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Looked a little bit more shaky in that series against the Colorado Rockies, but Connor Phillips, Tony Santana right now supplying a sub-225 ERA. They used up Emilio Pagan yesterday. That's actually good news for you because he's the guy that I trust in by far the least in this bullpen. Graham Ashcraft is right now on the bereavement list. Probably not going to be available in this game, but Pierce Johnson, Brock and Rolberg, they both had sub-375 ERAs last season back there this season. So I do think that both pitchers are going to go out there, give you a relatively solid start. And with the Reds, it's a lineup that has been right around about league average in terms of run creation. Middle of it has been great. Ellie De La Cruz, Sal Stewart, a combined 19 home runs between the two of them. 355 on base for De La Cruz. Sal Stewart, 373 on base, a combined 15 stolen bases. And Eugenio Suarez has been a little bit banged up, and that's hurt the team a little bit. But you just have a lot of guys like Brian Hayes, Tyler Stevenson, TJ Friedel, Reese Hines hitting below the Bedell's line of a 200. So very shaky there, even though Nathaniel Lowe has gotten online. Somebody told it at 8.2, like the 8.5 under, and with the Pirates willing to lay up to minus 148 on the money line. 9-5, 906 on the card. It is the Brewers on the road against the Nationals as Jake Irvin goes for the Nationals. The Miz, Jacob Mizorowski on the bump for the Brewers. Brewers find themselves as minus 154 to minus 163 favorites. Plus 130 to plus 135 is that number on the Nationals. 8 is a total. Over is minus 110 to a minus 120. Under is between even and minus 110 if you're looking to lay run half with the Brewers. And I am right now plus 109 to plus 112. And I'm going to take the plus money on the run line. I was willing to go up to minus 118. Jake Irvin has been a little bit better this year, but that's not saying much. Last year about 1.9 home runs with a 5.70 ERA, 1.9 home runs per 9 innings. That is 4.85 ERA, 1.82 home runs, 3.3 walks per 9 innings allowed this far this season, but still have so many question marks with him. And even if he gives you an okay start, this is still a Nationals bullpen that is right now in the bottom 8 in the league in terms of bullpen ERA. Hard to trust in Encino, Perez, PJ Poulin, guys like this coming out of the bullpen. Brad Lord has actually been really good as a long guy, but other than that, it's been rough. Clayton Beater has been dealing with injuries, and he's one of your more trustworthy relief pieces. Paxton Schultz has not been too bad for his team, but Mitchell Parker is a long guy. That's not something that I trust in. You can trust in this Nationals lineup, though. They're currently a top 5 team in terms of run creation. James Wood gave you Goodwood last year with 30-plus home runs. He's got 10 bombs and nearly a 400 on base already this far this season. C.J. Abrams has been great. 8 home runs, about a 400 on base. And the ancillary guys, they're not hitting for a ton of power, but Jober Vivas has been with about a 285. You've had Brady House be able to find it a little bit more after a shaky start to the season. Dallin Lyle, about a 320 on base. So these guys are getting on to be able to help out those home runs to not be solo shots. Joey Weimer has been solid as well. And then for the Milwaukee Brewers, this team is right back in the top 10 in terms of run creation. They did have to use up quite a bit of the bullpen yesterday because you did have Brandon Woodruff go out of the game very early, but you still have all sorts of guys that are able to do a great job in terms of stealing bags, finding a way to be able to find a way on. Garrett Mitchell down near 400 on base. Bryce Terang over a 420 on base, 7+ stolen bases out of him after a slow start to the season. Sal Frelick was able to hit a home run yesterday. He's finding it. David Hamilton, Brandon Lockridge over a 345 on base. William Contreras continues to move line, and then you got Jake Bowers along with Gary Sanchez give you 5 home runs apiece. Brewers are right now about league average in terms of bullpen ERA. Much of that was due to the fact that you had serious issues with Trevor McGill to begin the season. He and Abner Uribe has been posting up about a 4 ERA as well. Does feel like both of these guys are starting to find it quite a bit more. They did have to use quite a few guys like Grant Anderson and company yesterday, but they were able to get 4 good innings out of Shane Drone, so that was big for them. So they haven't burnt up too much of the bullpen. So if you do need to go to someone like Grant Anderson, once again, you should be able to do so. I do think that Mizorowski is going to be able to go out there and dominate. He's right now getting 14.1 strikeouts per 9 innings. Obviously, the walks have been an issue for Mizorowski since coming up to the big league level. A hair above 4 walks per 9 innings, but right now supplying a 3.31 ERA, 3.24 field dependent with about 1.1 home runs per 9 innings. Do think that the Brewers go out there and dominate in what I think is going to be a higher scoring game. Somebody told 9.1. I like the over and the Brewers on the run line. 907, 908 on the card. The Phillies are going to be on the road against the Miami Marlins. Eri Perez is on the bump for the Fish, and Zach Whelan and Nealon Wheeler goes for the Phils. Phillies are a favorite of between minus 125 to minus 131. plus 105 to plus 110. That number on Miami. Total is 8. The over is minus 110 to a minus 115. Under is minus 105 to a minus 110. With the Phillies, I set them at a minus 126. Minus 125 is my max lay, but I'm willing to trust in Zach Wheeler. It's been a no good, very bad, terrible start to the season for the Phillies. They're coming off of a double dip, but Wheeler looks solid in his first start of the season. 5 innings, gave up 2 runs. Is he going to be the Zach Wheeler that he was last year with the 271 ERA and getting right around about 11.7 strikeouts at 2 walks per 9 innings? Probably not, but I think that he's presentable enough to be able to give you a good start here where the bullpen is going to need a little bit of breather, especially with Yohan Duran currently being on the injured list and gets a face-off against a Marlins lineup that has done a solid job in terms of reaching base. They just don't have a lot of pop. Now, Liam Hicks is the exception to that. He's been hit over at 300 for the team. He is up to 7 home runs. He has been tremendous there. And Xavier Edwards, guy's just continuing to move the line for this team over a 430 on base. Again, not a guy that's going to hit for a lot of power. They just need to find a way to get Jacob Marcy on base. He's got 10 stolen bases, but he's hitting just $178, so they need to improve that a little bit. But Otto Lopez hitting above 300. Connor Norby has been able to give you about a 330 on base. Now you're getting back Kyle Stowers off the injured list. It is a lineup that is improving, and the bullpen for this season was shaky to begin with, but now you're starting to have these guys that were posting up sub 350 ERAs be able to find it a little bit more. Calvin Fauché, Anthony Bender, these were a pair of guys that posted up a sub 350 last year, so above a 450, but they seem to be rounding into form. Blake Bakar has been a good long guy with a sub 350 ERA. Love the pickup of John King in the offseason, and for the Philadelphia Phillies, no doubt about it, they had to use up quite a few pitchers a day ago, but that said, I do think that you're going to be able to get a little bit more with the Ryan Kirkring coming off the injured list. It's rough what we've seen out of Jose Alvarado since coming off of the drug suspension. That has been not great, and what else has not been great has been the fact that the Philadelphia Phillies just have not been able to generate a lot of offense. Currently a bottom 5 team in terms of run creation. They had big-time home and road splits with regards to their offense last year as well. Kyle Schwarber, he's giving you Schwarber bombs, 10 home runs this far this season, hitting $196, but over a 350 on base. Bryce Harper continues to give you about a 345 on base, 6 home runs. Maybe expect a little bit more there, but it's not too bad. It's really been a lot of these infielders. So Bryson Stott, Alec Boehm hitting at 225 or lower. Rafael Marchand along with JT Realmuto at the catcher spot because Realmuto is currently on the injured list. They just have not been able to produce a whole heck of a lot either. So that leaves you with a lot of question marks. And I recognize that Eury Perez does have a pretty high ERA overall for the season right now. He's supplying about a 4.60 ERA. He's given up 1.7 home runs, 4 walks allowed per 9 innings. He has been a completely different pitcher in Miami though. 2.45 home ERA with 0.8 home runs per 9 innings for his entire career. 5.16 ERA, 1.9 home runs allowed per 9 innings away from home. So I think that you get a lower scoring game. So I might tell 7.1. I'm in on the under. I'm with the Phillies willing to lay up to minus 125 on the money line. 9-9, 9-10 on the card. The Dodgers are on the road against the Cardinals as Emmett Sheehan is on the bump for the Dodgers and Matthew Liberatore goes for the Cardinals. Cardinals are an underdog here. You're going to be getting them between plus 144 to a plus 156. Meanwhile, between minus 172 to minus 190. That number on the Dodgers, 8.5 is the total. Under is minus 110 to a minus 115. The over is minus 105 to a minus 110. And on the Cardinals, need at least a plus 155 to take a shot, but I'm going to be willing to do so. I actually do like Emmett Sheehan as a pitcher. I recognize that this has not been a great start to the season. From 4.78 ERA, the fielding dependent is more around about a 4.11, coming off of a great year last year where he had a 2.82 ERA, 2.93 fielding dependent, was getting 10.9 strikeouts per 9 innings. Strikeout stuff hasn't really dipped, 9.5 strikeouts per 9, but 1.4 home runs, 3.1 walks per 9 innings. That's not necessarily savory, to say the least. And then for Matthew Liberatore, this has always been a little bit more of a pitcher contact guy, has never really been able to find great deceptive stuff or anything like that. 4.75 ERA, right now he's giving up 2.4 home runs per 9 innings with 5.6 strikeouts per 9, so he needs to lock in a little bit more there. And what I think is a big concern for the Cardinals is that this has been a bullpen that has been in the bottom 10 in terms of ERA, but they do seem to be finding their bearings. Giorgio Romero is a little bit over a 3.50 ERA. I do think that he's going to iron out a little bit there. You've had Riley O'Brien be able to give you some good innings, Matt Savanson along with Ryan Stanek. These two guys have just been absolutely awful in the bullpen, so they've been limiting their innings, to say the least, and that's been a very good thing. And for the LA Dodgers, right now they are dealing with Edwin Diaz being on the injured list. Tanner Scott was one of the better relievers in all of baseball about 2 to 3 years ago. It does appear as though he's starting to be able to return to form, and for the Dodgers, you've got Alex Vesia, Jack Dreher, who were able to give you a sub-325 ERA last season, so those guys are pretty reliable. For the Dodgers, so right now averaging darn near 6 runs per game away from home. That is a top 3 mark in all of baseball, and you know what you're going to get out of these guys. Shohei Ohtani over at 375 on base. He's been able to supply 6+ home runs, and he paused has been able to give you a really nice start to the season, as right now he's giving you about a 320 average with 5 home runs. Max Muncy, 9 bombs, 375 on base. They haven't even gotten a ton of Kyle Tucker just yet, with only about a 331 on base, 3 home runs, but this team does it against lefties and righties. They're hitting overall as a team a 273, so that's been relatively incredible. And for the Cardinals, they're not quite at that level, but it's been a solid offense. I recognize that Jordan Walker has been stuck on between 8 and 9 home runs for a while. He's right now at 9, but he's still been able to give you a 350 on base, even though J.J. Weatherholt and Ivan Herrera don't necessarily have the world's greatest batting averages. Both guys have over a 375 on base. They need a little bit more on someone like a Victor Scott. I still am not bullish on Nolan Gorman, 4 home runs at a 291 on base. Not necessarily cutting it, but Alec Burleson, 355 plus on base. I do think that the Cardinals do a nice job in terms of getting to Sheehan, and I do think that the Dodgers get up some runs as well, so semi-total at an 8.8, like the over on plus 155 or higher. I'm going to be in on that Cardinals money line. 9-11, 9-12 on the card. It is the Braves. They are going to be on the road against the Rockies. Jose Quintana is on the bum for the Rockies, and Grant Holmes is on the bum for Atlanta. Atlanta, mono favorites here, anywhere between minus 188 to minus $2, plus 158 to plus 165 is that number on Colorado. 10.5 is the total. Over is minus 110 to a minus 120. Under is between even a minus 110, and I like the over here. I semi-total and 11.3. If you're looking to lay a run half with the Braves, that's between minus 120 to a minus 130, and I will be looking at that run line. Set mine at a minus 134. Now you look at the overall ERA for Jose Quintana. 491 doesn't sound amazing, but the fielding independent, boy, 677. He's doing for a lot of regression here. Right now, he is getting 4.4 strikeouts and 5.4 walks per 9 innings. So he's giving up one more walk than he's getting strikeouts per 9 innings. He has been getting smoked for 2 home runs per 9 innings. Grant Holmes is doing for a bit of regression as well. 488 fielding independent, 362 ERA. He has been giving up 1.4 home runs, 3.9 walks per 9 innings, and going up to Coors where it's elevated. That is going to be elevating the offense. And for the Colorado Rockies, they were able to get online in their series against the Reds with regards to some run creation. You've got Mickey Moniak, who's been hitting above a 300, 6+ home runs out of him. Brenton Doyle's having a rough start to the season. Kyle Karros, Ezekiel Tovar, guys hitting at 215 or lower. You're going to need to get a little bit more there. But Troy Johnson, Edouard Julien, these guys are hitting above a 300. You've been able to get some good production out of Tyler Freeman. Got his first home run of the season. He's hitting over a 280. Hunter Goodman has been able to move line. So, like what I've seen there, Rockies are much improved with their bullpen. They're in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. I do know, Senzatella has actually been really good in this bullpen. He's got a sub-1 ERA. He was a terrible starter, but apparently he's great in the bullpen. But Jimmy Erget, Jaden Hill, Victor Vodnik, Juan Mejia, these are all guys that supplied a sub-4.25 ERA last season. Now, Vodnik has really had his issues in the back half of games, but overall it's been a pretty solid bullpen. And for the Atlanta Braves, right now they are clocking in the top 5 in terms of bullpen ERA. Recognize that they had a rough go of it yesterday, but Robert Suarez is a former closer of the Padres who's been able to give you a sub-2 ERA. Dylan Lee has been able to give you a sub-2 ERA. Taylor Kinley, ironically enough, comes over from the Rockies. Sub-2.25 ERA as a member of the Braves. And Braves entered into yesterday numero uno in terms of run creation, as you've got Matt Olson, who's been able to do an incredible job giving you 9 home runs, hitting darn near 300. Additionally, you've got Drake Baldwin. He's done a nice job being able to hit for about a 300. He's up to 7 home runs thus far this season. You've still had a few injuries with Sean Murphy and company on the injury list, but Tom Smith, Mauricio Dubon, these guys have really been able to pick it up. And heck, you haven't even necessarily gotten a lot out of Ronald Acuna Jr. I do think that the Braves slugged their way to victory, semi-total 11.3, so do like the over and for the Braves, up to a minus 134. I'm willing to lay that run line. 9-13, 9-14 on the card. It's the Tigers. They are going to be playing us to the Rangers. Mackenzie Gore hopes to not get gored for the Rangers, and you've got Captain Jack Flaherty on the bum for the Tigers. The Tigers do find themselves as a very slim favorite here, as they're between minus 115 to a minus 120, and we're between even money to minus 105. That is your number on Texas. 8 is the total. Over is minus 105 to minus 115. Same goes for the under, and with the Rangers, I did set them at a plus 134, so I'm going to be willing to lay it with the Tigers. I recognize that for Jack Flaherty, the overall ERA, it's pretty rough, 5.33 ERA, and it's backed up by a fielding independent that's currently a nice hearty 6.03, as he has just been giving up way too many bombs. Right now for Jack Flaherty, in terms of home runs per 9, it's right around about 1.4, and 7.8 walks per 9 innings. I think that that'll come back down. He's a career 3.3 walks per 9 inning guy, so it's typically rough, but it's typically not this rough, so I do think that he's going to be able to find his command a little bit more. And then on the flip side for Mackenzie Gore, he had himself a solid year last year at the Washington Nationals. The win-loss record certainly did not show it, and you got no help up from his fielding, but feels like he's regressed a little bit this year. 4.35 ERA. He has given up himself 4.4 walks, 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. Swing and miss stuff has been great. he's been able to give you 12.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, but I do think that's fair to have some question marks here. Now, I will say for the Texas Rangers, this has been one of the best bullpens in all of baseball. Cole Winn was the guy that was able to give you sub-2 ERA last season. He's been solid this year. They are dealing with Chris Martin being out with a little bit of an injury, but still, you pick up Jacob Junis in the offseason. Last year, he had a sub-3 ERA with the Cleveland Guardians. Jacob Latz is a really nice long guy. As a matter of fact, for the Rangers, currently numero uno in terms of bullpen ERA. And for the Detroit Tigers, this has been a bullpen that's been more around about 21st in terms of ERA, but I do think that these guys are going to be able to find it a little bit more. You've had so many guys like Will Vest and Bryant Herter that were able to supply a sub-350 ERA last season that have seen their ERA be very much elevated this season. Kyle Finnegan has been consistent since being picked up at the trade deadline last year, sub-3 ERA in a Detroit Tigers uniform, so I do think that he's going to be able to give you some good innings. And for the Tigers, this is an offense that's really starting to round into form. They were not giving you too much in terms of power to begin the season, but guys move the line. Kevin McGonigal, Cole Keith are both hitting above a 325 right now. Gary Carpenter is still hitting just a 225, but he's up to 6 home runs. Spencer Torkelson, 350 on base, 5 home runs. Riley Green is now able to find 4 home runs, over 375 on base, so it's really starting to come together. Javi Baez never draws walks, but he hits above a 250. You've got plenty of guys that find a way on, and on the other end for the Texas Rangers, they're back in the bottom 10. As a matter of fact, the bottom 8 in terms of run creation. It's just hard to be able to trust in this offense. You just have not had a lot of these guys be able to step up the way you expected. Wyatt Langford, once again, having a little bit of a shaky start to the season. Now he hits the injury list. As a matter of fact, Alejandro Ozuna might be a little bit of an upgrade at this point. Brandon Nimmo's been hitting above a 275, but right now he's dealing with a little bit of an ailment. Evan Carter's hitting right around about a 200. You've been able to get good production in terms of home run power out of Corey Seager and Jake Berger, 5 and 6 home runs apiece, but both of these guys are hitting below a 230. Danny Jansen has not given you a lot at the catcher spot, so interesting circumstance here. I just don't think that the Rangers produce a lot of offense. I do think that Gore and Flaherty find a little bit more command. So my total is 7.7, like the under, and for the Tigers, one to lay up to -133 on the money line. 9:15, 9:16 on the card. It is the Yankees. They are going to be playing us to the Baltimore Orioles. We do know that Will Warren is going to be getting the start for the Yankees. Right now, it's listed as to be determined for the Orioles, but we do have initial prices of -168 to -175 on that Yankees money line, between +140 to +145. The number on Baltimore, 8.5 is the total. The over is -120, and the under is even. It's looking like it's going to be Cade Povich who gets this start, because for the Orioles, they had to place Trevor Rogers on the injured list. He was originally set to go, and if I could get a +145 or higher on Povich, I'm going to take a shot on the money line. I know that Povich has been a disappointment the last few seasons, but he's always had relatively good swing and miss stuff in the small sample size at the big league level thus far this season. 12 1/3 innings in 2 appearances. It's been way down, 5.1 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's kept things out in front of him. 0.7 home runs, 2.2 walks allowed per 9 innings, so you do like to be able to see that. If you look a little bit further at the numbers that he's had in AAA Norfolk thus far this season, he has had closer to about a 5 ERA, and swing and miss stuff has been more like 13 strikeouts per 9 innings there, so I do think that he's going to be able to produce some swing and miss. Goes up against the Yankees lineup that, no question, it's been rock solid with Aaron Judge being able to supply 10 plus home runs, and you've got quite a few guys that are doing a solid job in terms of being able to hit for power, like a Ben Rice, who's been able to give you 9 home runs, hitting above 300, but again, moving the line is an issue. Now you've got Giancarlo Stanton, who's actually hitting for some relatively good average, currently on the injury list, and the infield has just not really been hitting a ton for this team. Jazz Chisholm, he could easily hit right around about the Mendoza line of a 200. Jose Calabreo's actually been solid in terms of getting on base, 265 average. He's been able to supply 3 home runs, but the entirety of the catcher spot, Austin Wells, Ryan McMahon, you just need more out of these guys. They bring in Randall Grichuk as a platoon player. Paul Goldschmidt, these guys have just not necessarily produced a lot for you. And then with the Yankees, I do think that the bullpen going to be a little bit better moving forward. They've been about league average in terms of this bullpen ERA. You pick up David Benner along Camilo Duvall at the trade deadline last year, and Duvall has been terrible. He's been able to give you about a 70 ERA, so that's been an issue. Benner, he's been okay, but you do have Fernando Cruz give you a sub 330 ERA. Tim O'Brien Hedrick, they're below a 2 ERA. And for the Baltimore Orioles, even though you might not necessarily get the world's greatest start out of Cade Povich, this has been a bullpen that has been sneakily pretty solid. Yennier Cano, don't you know this guy is looking like his peak from a few seasons ago. He's been able to give you some good innings. You've got Uncle Rico Garcia along with Cano and Andrew Kittredge. I'll give you sub 2 ERA. Kittredge just fresh off the injury list. Ryan Elsley starting to look like the Ryan Elsley that we all know and love as well. And for the Orioles, the big issue for this team has been the offense. You've been able to get good production in terms of home run power out of Gunnar Anderson, 9 home runs. Fortunately, he's hitting for a 283 on base, so you need a little bit more there. But Jeremiah Jackson is up to 6 home runs. He's been able to hit a 270 Samuel Basallo after a rough start to the season. Still hitting just a 232, but 5 home runs. He's been able to find it a little bit more. You need a bit more out of someone like a Kobe Mayo, Blaze Alexander, Colton Cowser, these guys hanging below the middle sign of 200, but Taylor Ward, when he's been out there, he's been able to move line hit above a 300 for this team, and I do think that they're going to be able to get to a guy, Will Warren, who's been able to put it together this year. Will Warren has always been a guy that's had a nice swing and miss stuff. The big issue for him has been command. For Will Warren right now this season, he's been able to give the team a sub-325 ERA, but you still do have to have some issues that he might be reverting back to where he was last season. 259 ERA, 277 fielding dependent, down to 2 walks per 9 innings thus far this season, but career 3.4 walks per 9 innings, so plus 145 or better in on the Orioles money line, and do like the over, so I told it at 8.7. 917, 918 on the card. It's the Astros. They're going to be on the road against the Red Sox. We do know that Mike Burrows is going to be on the bump for the Astros. Right now, it's a little to be determined who's on the bump for the Red Sox. We're seeing some lines out there. It's a pick 'em, minus 108 to minus 110 on both sides. Total is 9.5. The under is minus 120, and the over is even. And I did set a total here of a 9.3. I'm looking at the under. I would be looking at the Red Sox as long as who I think is going to start is going to be making the start. That would be Jake Bennett. It looks like he is going to be able to get his MLB debut. All reports are he's going to be sent up to the big league level. I think that they optioned someone down to be able to make room for him. And if you look at what Bennett has been able to do at the minor league level, this is a guy that has really good command. You go back to the 2025 campaign, 227 ERA in his levels of minor league baseball, was only getting about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 2.3 walks, 0.4 home runs per 9 innings. He's a little bit more of a pitcher contact guy that is able to keep things out in front of him. And Mike Burrows, on the flip side for the Astros, last season he was fine with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Was posting up about a 3.96 ERA, 1.2 to 1.3 home runs, 3.5 walks per 9 innings. Nothing amazing, nothing awful. This season he's been giving up 2 home runs per 9 innings, and he has toilet bowled along with the entirety of the Astros in terms of their pitching. Right now, 6.25 ERA, fielding dependent a little bit north of a 5, and for the Astros, this is a bottom 5 team right now in terms of bullpen ERA. They're coming off of playing 18 innings yesterday against Baltimore, so that's an issue. Steven Okert, AJ Blubaugh, they both have an ERA above a 4.50. Jason Alexander continues to be absolutely awful as a long guy for this team. Brian Abreu has an ERA above an 8. Daniel De Los Santos has an ERA above a 5. Like, you just don't have any good options in the bullpen with Josh Hader and Nate Pearson currently injured. Now, for the Astros, top 7 team in terms of run creation, but I have to fear that the injuries, Jeremy Pena, Jake Myers, Joey Luperfido, all being on the injury list, that those are going to catch up with them. Christian Walker's been solid, hitting above 275, 7 home runs going into game 2 of that doubleheader. Carlos Gray over at 350 on base. Jose Altuve, maybe not quite what he has been in the past, but he still moved line, getting on base. Even Cam Smith has been able to give you 4 home runs, not hitting for a ton of average, but Jordan Alvarez, 450 plus on base, 11 plus home runs. He has been incredible. And then on the flip side for the Red Sox, this is currently a bottom 10 team in terms of run creation. I do think that this is going to be a little bit of a get-right spot for them. You've got Weiler Abreu, who's been able to while out. He's been able to hit above 8.275, and he's been able to supply the team with 4 plus home runs. Wilson Contreras has been leading the way in terms of power, 7 home runs, 375 on base. It's really the infield right now. Caleb Durbin, Trevor Story, both hitting below a 200. That's been an issue. Now, Marcelo Meyer is now giving you about a 250. That's been solid. Andrew Marisario, he's a little bit of a platoon guy that should be able to give the team some options. Roman Anthony, he's been not what he was a season ago, hitting about a 210. Still give you about a 340 on base, but never expected him to be a power guy. Good news for the Red Sox, so they've got a big edge with regards to their bullpen. Last year, second in terms of bullpen ERA. They've seen that go up a little bit this year, but still, Aroldis Chapman has been amazing for the team. Giovanni Morin has been a good long guy with a sub-3 ERA. Garrett Woodlock back below a sub-330 ERA himself. Danny Coulombe, Greg Weiser, they both last year had a sub-350 ERA. They've acted up, but I do think that they find their bearings here. So with the Red Sox, willing to lay up to a minus 121 on that money line. Somebody told 9.3, so you're at the 9.5 in on the under. 919, 920 on the card. It's the Blue Jays on the road against the Twins. Simeon Woods Richardson is on the bump for the Twins. Patrick Corbin goes for Toronto. This is a relative pick'em game with the Blue Jays between minus 105 to a minus 110, minus 110 to minus 115. That number on Minnesota, 8.5 is the total. Over is minus 115. The under is minus 105, and it's at a 12 and 80.6. So I do like the over. Patrick Corbin has actually not looked bad this far this season. I'm wondering how long this pixie dust and fairy train trail is going to be able to last, though, because right now 372 ERA, 405 fielding dependent, 7.5 strikeouts, 2.8 walks per 9 innings. He's been controlling the deep ball, but for Patrick Corbin, 5.15 plus ERA in 4 of the last 5 seasons, so you have to have some concerns there. And then for Simeon Woods Richardson, he's always been a pretty meh pitcher, and this year he's been awful. 6.30 ERA, 6.02 fielding dependent, 3.9 walks, 1.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings. His swing and miss stuff is down. Last year, 4.04 ERA with about 8.5 strikeouts, 3.7 walks per 9. I think they can return to being more meh instead of absolutely terrible. And for the Minnesota Twins, this has been a bullpen that's been pretty terrible themselves, currently in the bottom 10 in terms of bullpen ERA. You've got Cody Funderburk, who's been relatively okay for this team, but you just don't have a lot of trustworthiness with Justin Topa being in and out of the lineup, and even when he's been in there, he hasn't necessarily given you great production. Anthony Banda, he's right now providing well above a 6 ERA thus far this season. You've actually had some pretty solid innings out of a guy like a Cody Lawyerson, but he hit the injured list as well. Eric Orze, sub 3.25 ERA last year with Rays. That's up above a 5. Taylor Rogers looks washed, and for the Twins, this has been a team that's been in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of run creation. I wonder how long it's going to last. Brooks Lee has been solid, hitting at 250 with 5 home runs, and Byron Buxton, slow start to the season, now up to 7 home runs. The on-base percentage is out there, but he's moving line. But then Victor Carantini, Luke Cashiel, Cody Clemens, Matt Wallner, all in at 222 or lower. Now Wallner, along with Clemens, both had 20-plus home runs last season, but neither of these guys are able to move line, really. Royce Lewis looks injured once again. Austin Martin, he's been able to give you 475 on base, but it's been a small sample size, and for the Blue Jays, they've been dealing with injuries of their own. Don't call his name Alexander Kirk, along George Springer being on the injury list is an issue. They're just not producing power right now. 25 home runs in their first 30 games of the season. Kazuma Okamoto has been their top home run hitter with about 5 home runs, hitting just at 225. Now, there's plenty of guys that are hitting for average for this team. Vlad Guerrero Jr., 444 on base. You just expect a little bit more than the 2 home runs. And then you got Ernie Clement, Eloy Jimenez, Miles Straw, Andres Jimenez, all hitting at least a 275 for the team. I will say with Jimenez and Straw, not necessarily the world's greatest on base. Same goes for Clement as well. Jesus Sanchez, 4 home runs. He's been able to find a way on with about a 265 average. And after the Blue Jays bullpen was just absolutely terrible to begin the season, they've been able to sort things out as you've got a trio of guys that are really liking Louis Varland, Tyler Rogers, along with Braden Fisher, who have all been able to give you a sub 2 ERA. Spencer Miles has been pretty solid as a long guy as well. They need to weed out Brandon Little, who's been coming up very little. Jeff Hoffman no longer closer, and then Tommy Nance, Mason Flaherty above a 5 ERA. But I do think that for the Blue Jays, they're going to be able to get an okay start out of Corbin, but I think that Woods Richardson returns to form, and I just can't bring myself to trust in Patrick Corbin here. I set my money line price with the Twins at a minus 116, so what'll I have to a minus 115 with the Twins? I do like this total over. Set my total in 8.6. 921, 922 on the card. The Guardians are going to be on the road against the Athletics. JT Ginn-Juice is on the bump for the Athletics, and Joey Cantillo goes for Cleveland. Cleveland is a very slim underdog here, between even money to minus 105, meanwhile minus 110 to minus 115. Then around the Athletics, 9.5 is the total. Unders minus 120, the over's even. I do like the over. I set my total 9.6. Sacramento is just producing runs like crazy, unless if you're the Kansas City Royals, who they just have not been able to hit to save their lives all season long. So those are outliers of games. I'm for the Cleveland Guardians, say themselves a bottom 8 team in terms of run creation. I do think that they're going to be able to find it a little bit more. They've just been lacking a lot of power, and for the Guardians, they've actually been in the bottom half of the bullpen ERA thus far this season, but I do think that they're going to be able to turn that around. Eric Sabrowski continues to be solid with a sub 3 ERA. Peyton Belante has been able to give you about a 3.55. Kate Smith, after he had a great year last year, he's up above a 3.85 ERA, placing Sean Armstrong on the injured list has hurt them, and Hunter Gaddis began the year injured, so he's still been trying to find his sea legs a little bit as well, but I love what I've seen out of Joey Cantillo this far. 297 ERA, albeit the fielding independent, more around about a 396. He has been giving up a few deep balls. His home runs per 9 rate right around about 1.2, and the walks are still an issue. He's getting about 4 walks per 9 innings, but over 10 strikeouts per 9, so I think that he's going to do a solid job here. Backed up by a lineup that has had Jose Ramirez start to find it a little bit more, still hitting at 222, but 341 on base, 6 home runs. They need more at the top from Stephen Kwan, who's hitting at 220, and you do have still quite a few disappointments in this lineup. Bo Naylor being one of the biggest of them, but he, along with a guy like Juan Burrito, Kyle Manzardo, when he's been out there, Gabriel Arias, Reese Hoskins, you've got a lot of guys right now that are hitting right around about a 200, if not a little bit lower. Brian Rocchio, 360 on base. Ano Martinez hitting at 265 with 5 home runs. They've been solid, and Jason Lauder had 5 home runs in like the first week of the season, still stuck on 5 home runs, so you're going to need to get a little bit more there. And for the Athletics, Shea Langoliers, well, Shea is banged. He's up to 8 home runs this far this season. He's been able to do a nice job hitting above a 325. Jacob Olsen continues to not draw walks, but he's hitting about a 285 along Jeff McNeil. You've had Carlos Cortez for a 462 on base with 4 home runs and about 70 at bats. That's been solid, but Tyler Soderstrom has really regressed from a season ago. Lawrence Butler last few seasons has just not necessarily taken off. Brent Rooker's been in and out of the lineup, and when he's been in it, he's been rough. And the Athletics are actually a league average team in terms of bullpen ERA. They've been able to find some of these guys guys like Elvis Alvarado, Horgan Harris, who have been able to give you a sub 350 ERA. Joe Kuhnel has been pretty solid at the closer's role. Justin Turner back to about a 4 ERA from the season ago. And JT Ginn has actually been able to do a solid job with his ERA, hovering right around about a 324, but 488 fielding independent. Strikeout stuff has not really been there. Less than 7 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's another guy that last year was giving up well above 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, 5 bombs in 25 innings. So I do think that that's going to regress a little bit, and I do think that Cantillo gives you the better start. So with the Guardians, willing to lay up to minus 112 on the money line. Do like the over, so by total 9.6. 923, 924 on the card. It's the Royals on the road against the Mariners as Brian Wu says woohoo to another start, and Cole Ragans goes for the Royals, and the Royals are a underdog here between plus 129 to a plus 135. Meanwhile, minus 155 to a minus 158 is that number on the Mariners. 7 is the total. Over is minus 110 to a minus 120. The under is between even a minus 110. The Mariners run line, by the way, between plus 140 to a plus 145. I'm going to be willing to get frisky here. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the Mariners on the run line just because Cole Ragans, he did have that ERA that was right around about a 470 last year, but the fielding independent was more around about a 250. I really thought he was going to be able to find it this year, and it's a 5 ERA with 2.3 home runs, 6 walks per 9 innings. He's getting 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, but man, he has been a shell of himself. And for the Royals, they're currently checking in the bottom 5 in terms of open ERA. Carlos Estevez being on the injury list has hurt this team, and after Alex Lang had a nice year last year, over a 5 ERA. Lucas Ursich has not been himself. You've been dealing with a few injuries, and Nick Mears has been able to give you a sub 350 ERA, but it's clearly not the same team that they've been in the past. And for the Royals, 2.6 runs per game away from them. Dead sinking last in all baseball. I think that's with Elias Diaz, who's been able to hit about a 350 at the catcher spot. Bobby Witt Jr. continues to move the line. He's been able to give you a 360 on base, pair of home runs over last weekend. Jack Cagliano's been better, hitting about a 250. Nick Lofton is hitting about a 260. Carter Jensen, he's been able to give you 6 home runs with about a 340 on base. But Vinny Pasquantino's been banged up, and when he's been out there, he and Salvador Perez both hitting at 200 or lower. Between the two of them, I believe you've got to combine 7 home runs, so you just need a lot more there. And for the Seattle Mariners, they've had some very demonstrative home and road splits with regards to run production. Typically, Seattle suppresses offense, but in this case for Seattle, they're right now averaging on the road about 3.7 runs per game, more like 4.65 runs per game at home. It was slow going for big dumper Cal Raleigh, but he's been able to give you 7+ home runs now. He and Josh Naylor are both hitting below at 225, but feels like both are getting online. Julio Rodriguez is just always a very slow starter. First few weeks of the season was a little bit rough for him, but now he's been able to give you over a 325 on base. You've been able to have a few guys like a Luke Raley be able to give you 5 home runs. Good production there. Connor Joe, I think, has a little bit of upside here as well. And for the Seattle Mariners, sans Andres Munoz, this has been a really good bullpen. Munoz is typically a really good closer. He has been having some issues, and Matt Brash is right now dealing with a little bit of an injury, but he has been posting up a sub 2 ERA. You've had Jose Ferreira give you a sub 2 ERA. Gabe Spire, Edward Bazardo, they're coming off of a sub 3 ERA last season, and for Brian Wu, he has gotten off to a little bit of a shaky start to the season. A 3.86 ERA, just really got tattooed in that game against Cardinals. That's a lone start out of his 6 thus far this season, in which he's given up more than 3 runs. He gave up 4 bombs in that start, and those are the only 4 that he's given up this season. First 32 innings of the season, he had given up 0 home runs, and last year he was posting up a sub 3 ERA. He was getting about 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, so I do think that he's going to be able to return to form a little bit more here. Swinging and stuff has been down. He's been only getting about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but the command has been really good. He's right now giving you less than 1.5 walks per 9 innings, so I think that he finds it here, and I do think that the Mariners are going to be able to get the job done in what I think is going to be a low-scoring game. I just don't trust in the Royals offense, so I made total 6.9, so on the 7, I do like the under, and I know that it's a low total with the Mariners. I'm going to be willing to lay the run line. We'll take plus 140 or greater there. 925, 926 on the card. The Giants are on the road against the Rays. Shane McClanahan goes for the Rays, and Robbie Ray says hip hip hooray to another start. Rays do find themselves as a bit of a favorite here. You're going to be laying anywhere between minus 130 to minus 140 with them. Plus 110 to a plus 115 is that number on San Francisco. 7.5 is the total. Over is minus 110 to a minus 115. Under is between minus 105 to a minus 110. Now, I did set the Rays at a minus 128. We have yet to see the dime lines come out. I'm thinking we should be able to get a minus 125 when it's all said and done. Pretty much minus 128 or better. Good to be in on the Rays. If I absolutely had to play it right now, that run line price is right around about a plus 170 or so on the Rays, and I'd be willing to take that. So I'll be on the Rays in some form or capacity, but I do think I'm going to be able to get that minus 128 when it's all said and done. And it's Shane McClanahan, the same guy that we saw a few seasons ago. Now, when you're off for 2 years and you're not able to see live action for 2 years, that's just not going to happen. That said, he's been able to come back and he's been relatively solid thus far this season. The command is still not there. 5 walks per 9 innings, but 10 strikeouts per 9. He's keeping the ball in the yard. Half home run per 9 innings. 391 ERA, 320 fielding independent. He has given up 2 earned runs or fewer here in 4 of his last 5 starts. So, I mean, again, not the same guy that we saw a few years ago, but he's been solid enough. And for Robbie Ray, he always just has a little bit of an issue in terms of the walks. Right now, 2.70 ERA, and he's been giving up about 3.8 walks per 9 innings, which that's pretty much standard from 9.5 strikeouts per 9, 1.4 home runs per 9, but that 423 fielding dependent does have to have you a little bit concerned. And with the Tampa Bay Rays, they are back at the Trop, so that's going to suppress offense a little bit more from their home games a season ago. But Junior Caminero last year, 44 home runs. He's been able to give you 7+ to begin the season here. Yandy Diaz is back to giving you a 400+ on base. Jonathan Aranda, he's not giving you the 300+ average that he had a season ago, but he's been up to 6+ home runs, so he's been solid. And Chandler Simpson is one of the best base heroes in all baseball, and it's lethal. He's hitting above a 300. And then you throw in there someone like Johnny DeLuca hitting a 275 along Nick Fortes. That's been amazing. Now for the Rays, this is a bottom 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA. The former Orioles and Brian Baker, Cole Sulzer, they've really been saving graces for this bullpen. Both the guys have been able to give you a sub 3.25 ERA, but other than that, it's been rough. Yandris Gomez is not reliable. Griffin Jax is getting jacked up. He should probably be a starter at this point, along with Ian Seymour. Both of those guys just don't belong in this bullpen. Garrett Clevenger is currently on the injured list, so that's been a bit of an issue. And then for the San Francisco Giants, this is a top 8 team with regards to bullpen ERA. That said, they had a rain delay in game number 2 of their double dip yesterday against the Phillies. They've had to use a lot of bullpen pieces in general in that 18-inning affair. You've had Caleb Killian be able to give you a sub 2 ERA, but they're still dealing with the injury to Yoel Piguero. Eric Miller, last year a sub 2 ERA, that's gone up to a 4+ now. Ryan Walker has been much better. Keaton Wynn is able to give you some good innings. Matt Gage, a sub 3 ERA, but I do think that for Shane McClanahan, going to do a solid job here. Do think once again that the ballpark factors are going to be big, and for the Giants, this is currently a bottom 5 team in terms of run creation. You're just not getting bang for your buck out of Rafael Devers. 244 on base going into yesterday with 3 or fewer home runs. Now Luis Arias is hitting above 300, and you've got guys moving the line like Drew Gilbert, Eloy Ramos, Matt Chapman. These are guys hitting above a 275. You've had Jungle Lee be able to hit darn near a 300 for the team, so they're finding a way on base. But William Thomas, I mean, sub 250 on base, not a lot of power, so that's been a big issue. Semi total 7.1, so with the race up to a -128, going to be willing to lay that money line in here on the 7.5 like the under. Semi total 7.1, 927, 928 on the card. It's the Mets. They're going to be on the road against the LA Angels as Christian Scott, great Scott, he is on the bump for the Mets, and Wilber Ureña is on the bump for the Angels. Angels do find themselves as a very slim underdog here. You're going to be catching between +104 to +110, with a -125 to a -130 is that number on the Mets. So on this game is 9. The over is -110 to a -120. The under is between even and -110, and I'm in on the Angels. I was willing to take a +103 or better. I mean, you want to talk about two teams that are really struggling right now. The Mets just lost home series to the Washington Nationals and the Colorado Rockies. And for Christian Scott, he was pulled with a no-hitter in his last start, but he had given up 5 walks in less than 2 innings. Last year, he was posting up an ERA right around about a 4.32. He wasn't great. He wasn't terrible. I think that he's going to be better than the 5 walks and less than 5 outs that he gave up in his previous start, but it's hard to have a lot of faith there. Meanwhile, for Ureña, he's a true rookie who he's been seeing about 4 appearances here for the Angels. 4.76 ERA, 4.62 fielding independent. He's got command issues as well. 7.9 walks per 9 innings, 10.5 strikeouts per 9. He keeps the ball in the yard, so that's solid. And neither of these bullpens have necessarily been great. Now, you've got a pair of guys in Brooks Raley along with Oscar Brisbane who are giving you a sub 3 ERA for the Mets, and they should be giving more opportunities to Austin Warren, who's been giving you a sub 350 ERA, because right now Devin Williams along with Luke Weaver, they're just pooping the bed time and time again for the team. And I want to talk about pooping the bed, the LA Angels, 29th out of 30 teams in terms of bullpen ERA. Ryan Zefrian has been absolutely awful. Drew Pomeranz has seen regression from a season ago. Like, at this point, you're really struggling to find who's reliable for the team. Kirby Yates is currently on the injured list, but for the LA Angels, I do think that they're going to find it a little bit more with their offense, because for the Angels, a lot of their run creation has actually come away from them. About 5.45 runs per game away from them, closer to about 3.4 runs per game at home. Joe Adell, he's been able to set fire to the rain with being able to rob 3 home runs at home thus far this season, but he's up to hitting over a 250. He's been able to give you 4+ home runs. Mike Trout, he's up to 9+ home runs. Doesn't necessarily for the world's greatest batting average, but his on-base percentage has been above a 400 this season. Zach Neto, he's been giving you a little bit of power with 5 home runs. He's seen his batting average go down to a 233, but still 340 on base. Jorge Soler has been a bit resurgent this year. 6 home runs even with the suspension, 330 on base. Logan O'Hoppy's on the injured list. That really doesn't hurt them. He had a 260 on base last season. Then on the other end for the New York Mets, this is a bottom 5 team in terms of runs per game. They were able to get online a little bit more against the Washington Nationals, but they've got one of the worst ERAs out there in all of baseball. And Francisco Alvarez, after a nice start to the season, 4 home runs, he's down to hitting about a 225. You've got MJ Melendez hitting above a 300. He never found a home in Kansas City. He's been fine here. Juan Soto's been able to find it, pair of home runs, 441 on base as far as the season, despite dealing with injury. But Bo Bichette, along with Marcus Semien, both give you below a 285 on base. You've got nothing whatsoever out of Carson Benjay, the young gun, for Mark Vientos, below a 300 on base. You're just getting no offense whatsoever here from the Mets. So I do think that Urania gives you a little bit better start than Scott, and I think that this total stays under. So I might total at 8.7. Angels not producing a lot of offense at home as well. So in on the under and plus 103 or better, taking the Angels on the money line. Wrap things up with 929, 930. The White Sox are going to be on the road against the Padres. Odovan Marquez goes for the Padres. Noah Schultz is on the bum for the White Sox. White Sox do find themselves as underdogs of plus 118 to a plus 125. Meanwhile, minus 138 to minus 143. Then I'm on Slam Diego. 8 is the total. Over and under between minus 105 to a minus 115. And I do like the over. I did set my total at 8.5. Noah Schultz in its small sample size, he's been solid here for the White Sox. I don't know if he's necessarily amazing or not, but still, he's been able to give you a relatively respectable ERA, as that's a 3.52. The issue is the 5.3 walks per 9 innings, and you pair that up with a bullpen whose ERA is right now 4.88, and that's just very lethal to say the least. And who do you really trust in this White Sox bullpen right now? Sir Anthony Dominguez is your closer. That's not a place where you want to be. Like with Sean Newcomb, he's been able to give you about a 4 ERA, but Jordan Leisure, he leisurely has not been able to do a very good job with this team whatsoever. So you've got a lot of issues on that front. And for the White Sox, they've been able to hit a lot of home runs. Right now, they're giving you over about 4.6 runs per game away from them. That's a top 10 mark in all of baseball. And in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis away from them, they are number 3. Montaka Murakami, 11 plus home runs. He has been absolutely incredible. Colson Montgomery has been able to give you 7 home runs. So you've got the power numbers going on there. They just don't hit for a lot of average. They continue to be a bottom 7 team in terms of batting average. You've seen a few guys like Andrew Benintendi really take a step back with that. He and Miguel Vargas both hitting below 235, so you're going to need a little bit more there. Chase Meadroth has been able to about a 340 on base, 255 average, so that's been relatively solid. Edgar Quiero, though, last year he was sitting above a 265. This year he's sitting below a 175, and on the other end, you've got a San Diego Padres bullpen that their ERA is now very elevated with the fact that they were out there in Mexico City for that series. They gave up the 10 runs in 2 innings to the Arizona Diamondbacks, so that was a big-time ERA booster. You right now have Jeremiah Estrada as well on the injury list, but you still have probably the best closer in all baseball, Mason Miller, Bradley Rodriguez, Jason Adam. These guys have been able to give you a sub 250 ERA. Getting Wandy Peralta back after he was a little bit banged up, that's relatively solid as well. And for the Padres, it's been a little bit of power outage with this team as well. Fernando Tatis Jr. still on 0 home runs as far as this season. 325 on base, that's respectable, but he's just not hitting for any power whatsoever. Jake Cronenworth has been useless. Nick Castellanos, Freddie Fermin hitting a 175 or lower. You need a little bit more there. And Jackson Merrill down to the Mendoza line 200. That's an issue, but Xander Bogaerts, 5 home runs, hitting at 275 is solid. Ramon Laureano's been able to move the line, 320 on base. He's been able to give you about 4 home runs. And Gavin Sheets, after a rough start to the season, still only about a 275 on base. He's been able to provide a little bit of power as well. And for Germán Marquez, he's got a respectable ERA, but I do think that he's going to give up runs here. 4.38 ERA with a 5.87 fielding depending. 2.2 home runs per 9 innings, 2.6 walks per 9 innings. That's not bad, but he's still not giving you a lot of swing and misses. Last year, 5.9 strikeouts per 9 innings with the Rockies, so I think that you get higher scoring games. If I tell it an 8.5, like the over, but do think that the Padres do a nice job getting into that White Sox bullpen. Set my money line price out of minus 177. Don't want to go run line, but want to go money line to go along with the over, and that'll wrap things up for the Friday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have 1 or 2 ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @GUnit_D1. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Big thanks to our good friend Matt Josephs, aka Mid-Major Matt, for joining me in the last segment. Coming at you guys every single day with picks and analysis on every game, every day, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.